Hello again, everybody, now that I've unmuted myself and uncrashed the crashing thing that I use to stream sometimes. Hello! I am joined today by Keltamer for a bonus session.
Hey, everybody.
For Tarala, Auric. So Kel.
Yes.
For our viewers, maybe you should explain where Tarala is right now and how exactly she got here.
Okay. Tarala is. Oh wait, in creation or
In story-wise.
Story-wise, Tarala is suffering a mild concussion, mild being the operative word here, in an unconscious after getting having somebody throw a tooth at her. She was with Sagacious Hand and Kalis Kodan and Jonas Auric on their way out from the underworld. They were sitting in a tomb together, each sharing the watches when, as the light of day broke through, showing that they were in creation again, that was when Tooth hit her in the back. She slumped to the ground, and now where she actually is, well, that's up to Hand and Kalis. But yeah, she's unconscious because she trusted her uncle.
And what a mistake that was, eh? What a mistake.
Oh yeah, should have listened to that intimacy.
Now, as often happens when people suffer massive head trauma, especially in fictional universes, where people can learn a lot about themselves in their dreams. Tarala comes from a broken family, and broken in the worst possible sense. Tarala Auric, better known to the public eye currently as Jade Phoenix Soul, was once a princess of a prestigious kingdom named Tibarana. Now, what happened on the day that she finally exalted, and the blood of Hashish bloomed within her like a fiery flower. It's difficult for her to forget what happened. But as all things go, how much of your memory can you trust? And so in this moment, this day or more that she spends out cold, being tended to by her friends, no idea where her body is or what's going on, Tarala finds herself drawn back into her past, and dreams of earlier days, of a simpler time. Things were happier, less chaotic, and filled with family. Tarala Auric is the youngest daughter of the second son of the last monarch of Tibarana. Her father, Reese. Her mother, Aylin. And her grandmother, Saris. But her father, Reese, was not the eldest son of Saris. The eldest son was Jonas Auric. Jonas Auric, who never took the crown. who was never in line for the throne, but somehow managed to cast a great shadow upon his younger brother. A shadow that Rhys could not abide. And so he sought to prove himself at every twist and turn. Tarala also has an older sister, Ayla Auric, 18, who's about to be married. And that's the day that Tarala remembers. The day that started so happy, and the day when everything went so terribly wrong. This day started much like any other day of Tarala's life up until this point. Waking in the morning. Woken in the morning, should I say, sorry, by the curtains being drawn in her room. Her lady's maid... Sorry. Her lady's maid, Leah, drawing back the curtains and letting in the sun. Light of the dawn sort of filtering in through her room and striking her face and forcing her to wake. It's a ritual they go through. Leah Tarala had become good friends over the many years that she had served her, helping her dress, helping her with her hair, all ready to go downstairs for breakfast that morning, where she is met by her father and all of the visitors. His brother, Jonas. His sister. I'm sorry, my notes are a bit of a jumble here. His sister Ren. Ren was a surprise birth. She came when her mother was quite old, going through what most people would consider change of life. And so Ren is quite young compared to her two brothers. Her eldest brother Jonas is almost 58 by now, but the blood of the dragons running strong in him, its exaltation keeping him at the prime of his life. Her father, also exalted, is 38. And she has never seen him in any way other than what she sees him now. Their younger sister has just turned 20. She is quite young. And Ren was brought up in the nursery here in the castle of Tiburana, along with Tarala, who is much younger than her by about 5-6 years, and Tarala's older sister Ayla, who's 18. She's unmarried, and so she's here at the breakfast table, along with her two brothers. Her mother has taken breakfast upstairs. Tarala's mother taken breakfast upstairs, as the married women do. And there's the usual jovialness between family members, but an undeniable tension between Rhys, Tarala's father, and Jonas. Rhys is first and foremost a family man, even if he is king. And he likes to remind his family of that. That they come first. First and always. Forever. No questions. The crown and the nation come second. A notion that rankles Jonas to his very core. This morning, Tarala finds herself seated next to Ren, whose young, natural, airy beauty does nothing to belie the blood of the dragon, Mela, running so strongly in her. For what the realm would call an outcast family, their mother, Alien. Sorry. Not their mother, Alien. Tarala's grandmother, Saris, has had 3 children, and each of them have exalted under differing circumstances. Her own father, 20 years ago, when he was but 18, wanting to prove himself in the line of battle like his father before him, ran off to join the war on the southern borders of the 100 Kingdoms. And that is where he exalted in the heat of battle, helping bring a few key sure victories. Ren leans a little closer to Tarala, breaking her out of her reverie. Oh, darling, you seem a little lost in your head. Is everything okay?
All right. Do you ever just have that feeling like you've seen something before? It must have just been, It's nothing. Just waking up tired still.
Oh, well, you'd best be well awake for your sister's big day. It is tomorrow, after all.
No, I will be.
We get to meet the handsome king-to-be, don't we, today?
Oh, yes. Looking forward to it.
What do you think of a young Willem? I've given you no preparation for this. I'm being mean.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, boisterous, but it's a good lad. I think he tries too much to emulate the stories, as it were. Boys will be boys.
Yes, and most boys want to be like their daddies, don't they? Although,
yes,
strong pair of legs and a nice back. Sorry, other way around. Nice pair of legs and a strong back. Can hardly complain.
No, of course not.
Now, Willem, in fact, has been brought up almost alongside Ayla and Ren. He's almost the same age. Willem's father... Sorry. I'm still getting over a cold, so I apologize for the constant coughing.
Alright, man.
Willem's father, Richard, had fought alongside Rhys Auric in the wars, and the two of them had become very good friends. He was a blacksmith and was raised up to be given a noble lordship by Rhys as sort of thanks for, watching each other's back during the war. Something that Richard has never really felt totally okay with. He doesn't really feel like he deserves it, but he tries his best for his king and his nation. Jonas likes Richard. Jonas does not like Rhys, or at least he butts heads with Rhys a lot. And Richard has almost acted as a safe go-between the two brothers, sort of meeting them in the middle. If they ever really need to sort of argue, debate, or come to some debacle, Richard acts as the cornerstone between them. And he's over towards the head of a table, sort of having a conversation with the king. Jonas is at the other end of the table, sort of just silently eating his meal. He's always been kind. He's never been outwardly rude to anyone except his brother. But that tends to rankle feathers here in the castle, that even if he is his older brother, he should respect his king. And Jonas seems to be showing no sign of that. So Ren continues. You got anything planned for today?
Well, I mean, so I'm definitely going to take Karanthar out for a ride, just usual early morning ride, and then there is the fencing class. But then after that, I'm going to try to see if I can't get any more information about the incoming young king.
Well, if you have questions about Willem, you could just ask me. I mean, and she sort of brushes up against you a little too close to respect personal boundaries, but Ren's always sort of been like this. It's nothing. It's nothing overtly insidious. It's just she just is her. Doesn't do much in the way of respecting boundaries. Just leans in close. We were practically bedfellows.
Okay, don't need to hear that.
Oh, you're young yet. Soon you'll be flitting about talking about all the boys in the kingdom, I'm sure.
Well, you know, not at breakfast, though.
Oh, yeah, perhaps you're right. Well, we do have a dress fitting at 6 candles, so...
Yes, I will be there.
Good. Karamfar, that's the Maracani steed you had imported from the western areas.
Yes, sturdy horse. One of the it's funny. The stableman always like he only listens to me, won't listen to them.
Well, you are of higher station. Takes a sip. Now, Ren is... I have the word salacious stuck in my head, but that's not what I mean, because of too much sagacious hand.
I have an entire list if you need it.
She's been entirely contrary a lot of the time. Does not act like a princess at all. Certainly does not act her age. It's not that she holds her dragon-blooded nature above anyone. She just recognizes it as an inherent advantage, and one that she's not afraid of using. And so, while it is just breakfast, you can tell she has already been nipping at your father's drink stand. Just something light, something fruity, so that it's sort of reasonably well hidden beneath her perfume, but you know Ren well enough to know that's what she's been doing. She's not a drunkard, and she's not a blackguard, but she does like to enjoy life.
Tarala gives a very slight... Is that the bottle from Paragon?
She's she looks like taken aback by the suggestion of such scandal, hand covering her face. Oh, please don't say anything. I hadn't realised I'd nipped quite so hard. It's the taste, you see, not the bubbly brain. The taste.
No, I know, but wasn't that? Oh, that one was meant to be for a special occasion. Well, this is a special occasion.
Oh, darling, all occasions are special.
That's true.
But don't follow in my footsteps. You are much too young. Boys you can talk about. Drink, you can't. Not allowed. I won't have it.
Tarala laughs, and she seems to be getting back into her normal, carefree nature.
Ayla, who's sort of sitting across the table from the two of you, just starts inquiring, and what are you two giggling about over there? Nothing terrible, I hope.
Oh, nothing. Just body tales from from good old Ren here. Just body tales.
Yes, we all know Ren's tales, don't we? And the two of them have a bit of a laugh. They are practically sisters. Even though, like, Ren's her aunt in reality. They're practically the same age. They've grown up together. They've been best friends forever. Do you have any questions for your family about today's events, or will you excuse yourself to take Heron for a ride?
She just stops. Ayla, what? I know we are doing our fittings. Are we doing our our rehearsals? What time are we doing that today?
6. Sorry, I keep saying 6 candle. What I mean is 6 p.m.
So
In the
we're
evening.
doing all of it at the same time.
Yeah, yes,
all
of
at the
course.
same time.
Yes, we've got a special surprise that Father doesn't know about. So, shh.
Ayla does. Sorry.
Yes, our dresses will be imported, latest fashion, I hear. Might not be to Father's standards, but Ren put forward a good case, and I should look absolutely divine for my wedding.
Oh, absolutely. You should be the center of attention.
Ren leans over, sort of nudges you pretty hard, says, Tarala, do you have any dreams of what your wedding will be like? Are you going to go for the large, fanciful affair with, hundreds of have relatives all gathering within the castle with, trumpets and confetti and doves and horses and gunshots and swords drawn, military parade, all of that stuff?
I mean, and Tarala starts going on and on about. She says, like, nothing big, and then all of a sudden starts going on and on about one of the realm tales she read of the wedding of a young Catholic officer and the patrician boy that caught her fancy and everything. And it's actually incredibly ostentatious because there is nothing but ostentatiousness in the realm.
Oh my. We want to aim that bar quite low, don't we, Tarala? Nothing fancy for you.
Oh, yeah, around there.
They all share a bit of a laugh, and you can see your father sort of glance over to you and look between the three girls and just smile warmly. He's happy to see you so happy.
She gives a wave to her father, and the same smile.
He waves back, nodding. You can see his eyes drift to his brother, and his mood just darkens ever so slightly before sort of turning off to regard Ayla more directly and engages her in conversation about some of the arrangements that they need to do for today. And as you sort of look down to your breakfast, plucking up the silver knife and starting to You cut into whatever it is that they've served you today. It's probably something hearty and nice. We, at the moment, just cutting through a nice crust of bread served to you by one of the footmen. There's a flash, just for an instant, of your hands bloodied, with the blade in your hand covered in blood as well, and screams and fires all around you. And as quick as it comes, it's gone.
She takes a moment, blinks, and if you'll excuse me, I do believe it's time for me to go take Karanthar out for a ride. She quietly excuses herself from the table, stopping to give her father a hug and a kiss before making her way down to the stables.
When you go to make your way out, Kenna, who is sort of combined butler and bodyguard for both you and your sister, walks out with you. Again, your father has cultivated a very, very strong familial ties with sort of everybody in his staff. He takes care of them, he considers them family. And so Kenna has watched you grow from a little girl into the mostly older girl that you are now, not quite yet a woman. And he has a handsome bent about you, but he's far your senior. You wouldn't consider him anything other than like a loving uncle, perhaps, at most. But you do have these strong ties to these people. And when you get to the stable, Kenna's sort of already got Haranthar out and just sort of strapped it down and given him a quick rub down before saddling it up with a blanket and then the leather saddle and tying through onto the bridle. Haranthar only really listens to you, but Kenna has a way with him where if Kenna is tending to me, that means that Tarala is on her way. And so he sort of grudgingly puts up with the indignity of having someone else nurse him while he awaits for your arrival. And here you come. You can see Haranthar sort of toss its head and give toss its head and give a happy nickering. A bit of a snort and then a louder neigh afterwards. It's rubbed down and ready for a run, miss.
She gives a smile and a nod, and yes, I do believe we are going to take the route through past the hedges today, around into the orchard.
Miss, you're free to ride wherever you like, you know this, but fencing practice is at 1.
Oh, of course, I wouldn't miss it. I'd just like to make sure you know where I will be.
Of course. Enjoy your ride, miss. Sort of gives a quick bow and sort of steps aside and offers a hand to help you up onto Haranthar.
She accepts it.
Sort of lifts you up, and the saddle is almost as home and comfortable for you as your own bed. Haranthar nickers again and starts to just start trotting out of the stable without you even urging him forward. And sort of Kenna takes up a slight trot beside you. Do you know what you want to be practicing this afternoon, miss?
Well, I've been working with I've been wanting to work more with the straight edge, the broadswords that, the guards use.
All right, nothing so fancy. I'll get the full.
No, nothing. I just wish to start with that, and then if after a good workout with that, maybe we can move on to the classics, the foil and the main gauche.
Sort of gives you a slight deep bow, stopping his trot as Haranthar takes off. All will be here and ready when you get back, miss.
She waves back to him, and as she's riding, not really just talking, like idly going, tomorrow's the big day, everything. And yet at the same time, she's still she's just kind of rambling to Karanthar, not realizing how actually intelligent he really is. But yeah, just rambling, and it's more just getting things out there, decompress, as it were, because it's a big day tomorrow, and letting everything out kind of lets you. I know what's incoming and everything.
Talk to me about this ride you take. What's Tarala's favorite trail that she goes? What is beyond these hedges? What's between here and the hedges?
So what she does is, in the way, there's the fields with there in the fields up to the hedges there are small statuaries, a sort of walking path that when servants are taking their breaks, they come out and usually have the chance to be themselves, not have to worry about necessarily the rigors of work. She enjoys it because at times she's able to. She usually waves them, but lets them have the piece. It's just nice to her to see them have their own area to walk around. And when she goes past it, she just loves the smell of the fruits and the fruits budding over in the orchards that as you crest over the flowers in the hedges. Like the change from the rose gardens to the apple and the apple trees in the orchards.
Now, Tiburana is built in the foothills of a great mountain that... Actually, I don't like this one. I'm going to skip it, and I'm going to remove it from the list. As... yeah, so Tiburana is the nation itself is built in the foothills of this great mountain. There's a very verdant river that sort of brings down all sorts of fertile soil from its top caldera. These gushing waterfalls sort of create these wonderful cascading patterns down the side of the mountain. It's carpeted with these luscious trees. Towards the top, you know that there's a great grove of mangoes. Their roots sort of twisting and turning, making a mangrove, actually, is what it's called. Of twisting roots and mush and sort of running rivers, babbling brooks. They all sort of cascade down the side of the mountain, but then reform into one great river towards its base, sort of casting its way out and trickling down towards the Yanazi, which is quite some distance off from here, but the river brings this kingdom its prosperity. It floods seasonally. Every season it comes up in floods, and when it recedes after that first month of the season, it leaves behind this wonderfully rich soil that you can plant pretty much anything in, and most of the farmlands that have taken up along this great river, winding its way down, making a delta towards the end as it flows off towards the Yanazi itself. You've never been to the top of this mountain, but there are legends told in Tiburana about the great mountain lord And the freedom of having this ride to yourself. You have hours and hours to kill out here with Haranthar, just sort of striding through the countryside. You could probably cross towards one of the furthest edges of your father's immediate territory and turn back and still make it back in time for fencing. But as the thoughts of the days to come, the muttering to Haranthar continues, you're lost in the thought of it, the feeling of it, the tension, almost a budding conflict on the horizon. And you feel that same surge of heat around you, the flash of bodies laid strewn at your feet. The trees around you on fire, their crackling heat sort of creating a sheen of sweat and worry upon your brow. You look down towards one of the men and see them wearing one of the royal crests of Tiburana on their jackets before the vision is gone. And you find you've ridden Haranthar quite far from the road. Well, from the path that you had set, ending up on one of the trade roads heading into the Tiburana Kingdom. There's a sudden and great commotion above you as a team of people shout, "Whoa!" This great thumping mechanical pachyderm elephant just sort of suddenly grinds to a halt in front of you, just shaking the ground a little. Its trunk lowers. Oh, sorry, yeah.
I was gonna say she is like even though he doesn't even need to, like, just out of reflex, she pulls the reins because awe-inspiring. This the actual thing where the word awesome isn't diluted here.
You can see a sort of a great flash of red hair up above on top of the elephant as its trunk sort of lowers down, and this man of impeccable styling just slides on down the trunk and sort of does a quick sort of dip and tuck jump before landing on the ground before you. He lands not quite bended down onto a knee, not letting his actual trouser knee touch the dirty ground, as he sort of presents himself in a long bow, or standing up again, flicking his head back and letting his hair just fall back and spill around him. His bright red auburn hair, his great blue eyes. Greetings, miss. That's it's a fine horse you have there. And he just instantly takes to Haranthar, sort of taking a step closer to sort of give it a rub down its neck. And Haranthar lets him.
Tarala, seeing this, because she's known Haranthar for a very long time, is just like, well, Haranthar likes him. Can't be that bad. Yeah, why thank you. This is Haranthar.
Haranthar.
And I am Tarala Oryx. And you are?
Tarala Oryx. Ah, of the Oryx.
Yes.
Of the great, wide, and wonderful kingdom of Tiburana.
Oh, you flatterer.
Kingdom in the foot of the mount.
But yes, I am the daughter of Resorik.
He bows again to you before coming back up. I apologize. He looks down at his clothes, and he's dressed more richly than you've seen anyone in your family ever dress. Because if I'd known I'd be around someone like you, I would have dressed up a bit more.
She actually does the noble thing where, you know, it's impolite to actually laugh, so you cover your mouth type thing. But she says it's quite all right. I mean, it seems your entourage is magnificent enough to count for 20 of the finest garbs one can buy from anywhere in the realms.
Oh, yes, my pride and joy, and he turns with a grand gesture. The ponderous and princely pachyderm. But, and he turns back to you, a finger coming up to his nose conspiratorially. Don't let your senses deceive you, young princess. We walk in single file. And he sort of just touches Karanthar by the side of his bridle and just pulls him along. And as Karanthar just takes those few steps, you see that this elephant is just one of 5 great beasts. The slight change in perspective suddenly revealing them all instantly.
Tarala is just completely taken aback. Like, this is absolutely amazing. Never seen anything like this. Never read anything like this, and she's read a lot.
This is my magnificent menagerie of terrestrial delights and wonders. I'd introduce you to each of them individually, but perhaps that can wait until tonight, for I have a special surprise planned for you and your father and your and your whole family, and indeed your whole kingdom. I have to leave some mysteries for the show.
Oh yes, indeed. But my gods, this is remarkable. No. I shouldn't ask. I shouldn't ask how they work, because that would ruin the majesty.
Young princess, if you asked, I probably wouldn't even tell you, or I would simply make something up and then surprise you with the truth later, or surprise you with another lie. You can never tell with a magician such as me.
A magician. Oh. So are you going? How many people are in there?
Quite enough to suit my needs, but tell me, young princess, what do you know of magic?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, I know of the magics of the Exalted heroes. After all, my family has come from lines of dragon-blooded, but
no, nothing so pedestrian, nothing so tawdry. No, I'm talking about real magic. He does the whole jazz hands.
I'm afraid nothing of myself. But I've never seen. I've seen magicians, but none quite with the. What is the word I am looking for? Well, none with a menagerie, that's for sure.
No, there is nothing quite like this in all of the lands of creation. It is my pride and joy, my life's work, one might say. So, tell me, princess, what brings you so far down onto the trade road?
Well, I was originally just taking a ride. I always take a morning ride with Karanthar. Been doing it since I was, well, much younger, and got lost in thought, and sometimes when I do that, he sort of leads the way, and it appears he led us off the path I had originally thought. Maybe, well, you know, in the stories, they never say that there's no such thing as coincidences. It's always something in the stars. Perhaps he knew this was here and had to bring me to see it.
Oh, princess. He runs a hand through his hair and just sort of flicks it out. You can almost see sort of glitter and sparkles coming out from his hand as he does it. One should always believe in coincidences. Coincidences happen every single day. The question is, do you trust coincidences?
That is a very interesting take on it. That reinterprets every tale I've heard.
I am far from pedestrian, far from mediocre. I am, and give me one moment. I am the Admiral of Mirage, the Minister of Mischief, Commander of Charm and Prime of Prestige, the Shogun of Shenanigans, the Emperor of Illusion and Illustrious Escapes, the audacious, sagacious hand.
She claps because that would like showmanship. She greatly appreciates it. Having done a few things and she's grown up. She's sometimes part of the lessons have been doing examples of dramas and such to practice singing, dancing, acting. It's all part of the royal training to make one more presentable and capable of working in front of an audience like royalty should.
Well, I don't want to keep you from your travels, young lady. Princess, your highness, which title would you prefer?
Oh, you could just... I've never been fond of the titles. You may just call me Tarala.
Tarala. No. There's something more, something deeper inside you. A soul that yearns to escape, to fly free. I'll discover what that is yet later tonight, dear princess. For the meantime, and he does another great bow, I think we should be on our way.
It's a good day to you, sir, and I look forward to tonight.
He sort of steps up onto the trunk as it sort of starts to lift up and bring it up into the air as he sort of does another sort of great furl, and you can almost swear this great, white cape appears from nowhere. It seems to have just appeared around his shoulders and back out of nowhere. Until tonight, dear princess, I hope the anticipation heightens. Slides back down the trunk in the opposite direction onto the top again as you can hear the mechanics start to whir to life, and it starts to sort of tromp on down the road. Karen Thar, you notice now that after he's shown you the rest of Menagerie, Karen Thar is now standing off on the side of the road. Like he's moved you there without you even realizing it, and the parade just passes you by.
She stays to watch all, because this is absolutely amazing, just seeing all these things. So she stays until they have all crossed over the vision, past the vision and everything. It's just like in her head trying to figure it out. Obviously no way that she could. It's just beyond her, but it's just too amazing to just simply walk away from.
And they pass on.
Roughly how long has it been since she started her ride, like, at this point then? Like,
looking up at the sky, you can see it's been a few hours. It's probably around 10 or 11 in the morning.
Alright. So she whispers to Herentha, let us return must be back in time for fencing practice.
Parenthar sort of just goes, trots off at speed. The rest of your day passes without much in the way of real note. You can feel that hunger for more swell up inside you. This sagacious hand has left you wanting, essentially. And it is after fencing practice is completed and you've retired for a quick bath, gotten yourself ready for the afternoon's activities, come down for a luncheon, that you notice that you've arrived just a little bit later than everyone else and end up eating your lunch alone in the dining room. And as you're eating, you can hear voices coming through from the library across the hall. The voices of your father and his brother, your uncle. They're arguing over something or other. Richard's voice sort of cuts in every now and then, trying to sort of try to appease one or the other to sort of calm themselves, and think about it clearly and logically, and go back over and remember your brothers, calling upon Reese to remember his brotherly attachment to Jonas, and reminding Jonas about his ministerial sort of obligations to his king. He seems to be well versed in how to get the brothers to sort of chat to each other in a more civilized format, but you can tell that they're in great disagreement about something.
She part of her saying no, don't try to listen in. They're talking their business. It's not mine. But another part of her can't help it. But as she's eating, almost to lean in to see if she can't glean any more.
As in from the room you're in, or are you going towards the...
She looks around to see if anyone's watching, and basically moves her seat around to be closer and everything, to that way, she's trying not to make anybody suspicious that, Tarala's doing the snooping thing again.
As you take your seat around to sort of get a better hearing, the voices are still a little bit muffled. As you sort of just peek around the corner to see, you can see straight into the library from your vantage point. And while Jonas's back is to the door, the moment that your head peeks around the corner, he pauses in his train of thought and turns to look directly at you.
She gives a wave and everything because, it's Uncle Jonas. It's nothing, just hello.
He smiles a little sadly and then just pushes the door closed, cutting off the sound of the voices.
Well, she continues her meal, figuring, okay, well, if it was something going on in the look over there, it must be something maybe trying to figure out. She just runs through a series of, might be father has to do this, might be something this, might be this, and they're just having a disagreement of how to deal with some situation or other that has come up. To her, this is what happened, because she knows Jonas butts heads with him, and again, they've clashed verbally, but she's never seen them clash violently.
as you're finishing your meal, you see Ren sort of swans into the room and seems suddenly taken aback to see that you're in here. And sort of backs off back towards the door. Goes, "Ah, Tarala. I thought everyone had finished their afternoon meal."
I was a little bit late getting back from fencing. You all right?
Oh yes, darling. Everything's perfectly fine. She sort of just looks back over her shoulder. Goes, "Everything's fine. Hey, did you hear about? Sorry. Did you hear about who your mother is entertaining right now? Dashingly handsome."
No, who?
I hear his name is Sagacious Hand.
Really?
Yes,
What
some
a
kind of
charming name.
some sort of magician or performer who's come to the kingdom.
Tarala always wanted to play a little bit coy with that. It's like, do go on, please. Describe him. What? He said he's dashing. Go on.
Oh, so you are interested? And she sort of scuttles up towards you and sort of just almost drops to her knees while you're sitting on the chair so that her face is level with yours. She goes, "Well, he has the most wonderful mane of red hair. Oh, those curls, the way they frame his face, and his piercing blue eyes. I mean, have you ever seen such? Oh, and, well, I shouldn't speak too much on this topic."
Well, it's not breakfast anymore.
Tell you what, why don't you see for yourself? And she sort of grabs you by the hand and starts trying to lead you out another doorway.
She lets it happen. I mean, she knows what she is going to. She thinks she knows what she is going to see, but she wants to let her have this moment of just genuine, like, oh my, you will not believe this.
So she takes you by the hand, sort of just leads you through some of the sorry. Lead you through some of the other rooms and halls of the castle before coming through to one of the little drawing rooms, where you can see your mother and your eldest sister sort of sitting down, being sort of flourished at by the man that you recognize from earlier. His entire outfit has completely changed. He's wearing much more sort of form-fitting attire, like what one would expect an acrobat to wear, but still covered in sort of like a jacket with an almost sort of military look to it, a bright red, crimson sort of coloring. Everything about him sort of just screams sort of a rich, wonderful. It's almost gaudy, except he manages to sort of pull it off in a most in a confidence of self that is just unparalleled. You don't see anyone wear stuff like that and think that they're in good style. And so when you do see someone dressed like that who just has the absolute confidence to pull it off, it makes the whole outfit work. So Ren sort of just pulls you down like next to the doorway, not fully entering the room, not wanting to sort of interrupt what is happening, and you can see where her eyes are going. She's looking this man up and down. But what takes you isn't his appearance, but what he's saying or presenting to your mother and your sister. And it seems like you've come in the middle of a conversation. He says, "When people ask me what magic is, I tend to just make something up, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Magic is deception." Well, let's start with something simple. And he sort of produces a deck of cards and shuffles it and fans out a few to them. Is pick a card, point at it. You know what? Reach out and touch it. Got it? Good. Now, and he sort of folds them away, starts sort of shuffling it into the deck. And imagine your card in your mind while I make it disappear. He reveals a blank card to them, turning the fan of cards back over to them. You see? Your card is gone. You like that? Good, because we're just getting started. See, there are two kinds of deception. There's this, and he shows basically shows them through the trick, where I trick you, and then there's the other kind, where you trick yourself. I mean, we all do it. Today is going to be better than yesterday. Well, is it? That argument you had with your best friend, it was all their fault. Or was it? And of course, my personal favourite. I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm fine. Go to the damn doctor. You see, our minds deceive us every day. They bend reality to make it be whatever we want it to be, whatever we need it to be. All simply to make it all make sense. Even when it doesn't. There's a...
Tarala's just... Oh,
sorry, go on.
She is just listening intently. She looks at Ren and gives a nod, like a knowing nod, but you know, not like she knows what Ren's up to.
Ren's just like...
mm-hmm. She actually whispers to her, perhaps he'd like a bit of the Paragon.
She just sort of stops, puts a hand on your shoulder, and then sort of does a quick little twirl and darts off towards one of the other rooms, leaving you there on your own. Watching her go, though, you look down to the ground and there's what looks to be a sword just laying there, ready to be picked up. It's just a straight sword, a broadsword, like one wielded by one of the guards. But unmistakably the craftsmanship is somehow more superb. You spent a lot of time with weapons. You know the look of used blades, of tempered blades. This thing looks almost magical without being magical. You can almost hear the edge sort of singing out its keenness. But when you reach to pick it up, it's gone. And then, a few hours later, you're getting fitted for a dress. It seems that your sister and your aunt have commissioned a world-famous artisan to come and design the gown. Now, this is the night before the wedding. You know, normally these things are settled and put away well before now. But this artist is so renowned, so focused, so perfect in his creations that doling up a bride and her 13 bridesmaids is nothing. But he's not exactly the character you were expecting. A sort of brute and squarish man with a nose that looks like it's been broken half a dozen times. his hair clipped very close to his head, almost bald. Not quite sort of shaven like a monk, but cut so short. And he explains, if ever asked, just to get the blind thing out of the way. There's a very provincial way of speaking. This dialect of River Speak is just so gruff. He's almost the exact opposite of what you would picture when someone says fashion designer. And yet his hands are steady, his eyes are keen, and nothing escapes his notice. And the gown that he envisions for your sister complements her figure without being too revealing. It complements her colouring without sacrificing without sacrificing the particular shade of cerulean blue that all wedding dresses are made from. It brings out her features. It makes her shine like a beacon. And each of the bridesmaids' dresses in a sort of a deeper, almost pastel red. Offset the blue and just make it, and without making the bridesmaids sort of look tawdry in comparison, they instead are themselves each a beauty. Your own dress, flowing off you in rivers of sort of silk and sheets and cuts and pleats and slits, and it fits you perfectly. His hands moving over and around you like you've had, fittings done 100,000 times before. Nothing quite so quick, nothing quite so precise. It usually takes, someone a few goes to get a measurement perfect. But he doesn't even have a measuring tape. He just looks at you, tucks it in, pins it, and sews it while it's still on your body, with his deft and clean hand. You have the honor of being dressed by the most famous fashion designer and dressmaker in all of creation, including the Blessed Isle, a striking ball peen. It was thought decades ago that he'd sort of given up his craft and disappeared. Here he is, here in your kingdom, fitting you a dress. This is something that the realm stories sort of make note of. The people who are married in striking ball peens dresses live the most fantastic, loving lives. He does not make dresses for just anyone, only those he trusts and admires and thinks that he can bring out the beautiful work within them. So I'm going to ask you, what does your sister Ayla's dress say about her? What are the best qualities it brings out in her?
Compassion but also a personal conviction. So, while caring, she definitely is. There's a domination toward her stature. The idea that she is in control. Very resolute, very much in some ways she would, I would say, despite not being Jonas's, she has that resolute that Jonas has from Passiev's blessing.
While the fitting is going on, you can hear Ren and Ayla are sort of discussing their future plans. Ayla is not young to be getting married, but you thought she would have waited a while longer. You know, she's not even yet of the age where she can say for certain that she will or will not exalt. It's not expected of you girls to exalt. It's not necessary for the kingdom to survive. It's just assumed that the blood runs strong in you. Given that your father and all of his siblings all exalted. It just makes sense. And yet, she's in a rush to get married. She loves Willem. She does. She speaks of him often. They've traded letters, they grew up together, they've been friends since they were little, sort of thing. This is the sort of marriage not foisted on them or arranged by their parents, but just something they have naturally fallen into given that they get along so well. This is a love born of friendship, and that kind of love does not disappear idly. It doesn't get broken easily. It's strong, deep, runs straight down into the core of people and refuses to let go. But for all her strengths and all her desires, Ayla doesn't want to be a politician, not in the way that Uncle Jonas is. She would much prefer to be the kind of king that her father is. I mean, he was her age when he ran off to battle, forged himself anew in the heat of battle, and came back a better, stronger man. There's no wars to fight right now, but, you know, she's heard of trouble brewing on the southern borders once again. She seems keen to get away and prove her mettle in combat. No one wishes for war. But Ayla is definitely hoping for something. And so it seems to be that her plan will be to marry, give her father a male heir to dote on, and leave for battle of some kind, to find herself somewhere. She has 2 very short years of which to prove herself worthy of the dragon's blessing herself. And as this talk goes on, that same vision, that image of the forest in flames around you, the bodies before you broken and fallen, blood staining your hands, the dress you're wearing now, in not quite in tatters, but sort of ripped and torn in several places, falling against your body, proving itself to be stout and resolute in its makemanship. And the sword in your hand is that sword that you saw on the ground earlier today. And as you look down towards it, a hand comes down against your wrist, clasping it tightly, pulling you away from the scene as the flames around you die away. And then the fitting is done. The last touch, striking ball peen, adds a sort of ticket to one of the underslips of the dress that you're wearing. his signature, as it were. A small hammer appearing to have struck a pane of glass, and the pane of glass shattering, or in the midst of shattering. He explains that his name is Striking Ball Peen. Ball Peen is a type of hammer. It's got a little ball at the end of it. But the glass represents the illusion of completion. That something like glass can appear so perfect and yet be so fragile. He's very happy to talk to you about his work. He's very proud of his workmanship. When the fitting is over and you are changed, it's Sagacious Hand who comes into the room. Striking Ball Peen looks up at him, nods. Goes, I'm right there with you, boss. Almost finished up here.
And Tarala is just like in her head, like just like, boss. Because this goes against pretty much everything she's heard in the stories.
Yeah. Striking Ball Peen is his own man. And yet here he is, apparently, working for Sagacious Hand. And of course, if there's a person he could work for. Sagacious Hand compliments you all. And you can see Ren sort of looking him up and down again, giving that slight blush as he sort of gives her a little salute before turning to leave. And as he does turn and depart, she just goes... she mutters something under her breath to your sister, and they both start giggling. Ren seems to have taken a fancy to him rather strongly. Once the fitting is over, it's almost time for dinner. The gong in the castle rings, and everyone is sort of ushered into the library for a pre-drink, essentially. Except you're not offered anything because you're too young. All of your family is here. All of your family is here. Sorry. And it should be a joyous occasion, but you can tell that Jonas's presence is still casting a pall on your father's mood. The mother has a quick word to him. He sort of just shrugs and seems to apologize for his behavior. Before crossing the room and patting his brother on the shoulder and apologizing for his behavior. Jonas sort of just shrugs and pats him back on the shoulder, and the two of them start having a bit of a deeper conversation. This time, no longer at each other's throats. Probably one of the first times you've seen them together, directly conversing and not bickering over something. Today is a union between families, and it can remind people of the strength and importance of family. And that even when at odds, family bonds can be stronger than any others. Just before everyone moves in to dinner, Kenna introduces the last and final guest for this evening's meal. The Sagacious Hand. He comes in and gives everyone a quick bow and does a trick or two. His handy-dandy deck of cards. You know, just to keep up the mystery of illusion. He's almost immediately taken aside by Ren. You can see her offer him a drink and he politely declines. And then it's dinner time. And everyone sits down for their meal. The first course passes without much confrontational discussion taking place.
Tarala just glanced around, just trying to see how everybody seems to be, like, like individual things, like what's Ayla doing, what's Ren, no doubt trying and just flirting shamelessly with Hand.
Oh yes.
And of course see Jonas and her father, just to see, like, just glancing occasionally between the two.
As you glance between them, Jonas arises from his seat and holds up his glass. A toast to the young, happy couple. I promise this will be short. May your days forever be filled with the life and love of the dragons themselves. Let us not quibble too deeply over the specific traditions surrounding our peoples, and instead be warm and comforted for a night and a day that hopefully change this kingdom for the better, and change for good. Raises his glass, and everyone else who is of age sort of stands and raises their glass as well, and everyone takes a drink as he sits. Jonas, though, as he raises the glass to his lips, pauses, pulls it away from his face, and stares at it, before looking up at his brother, who is beginning to put his glass to his lips. And quick as anything, Jonas's hand flashes out, and the glass in your father's hand shatters, the drink spilling about him. Your father is instantly enraged, but then Ren starts to cough and splutter. And in a moment that will define Tarala's life the rest of her days, vomits liters of blood across the table and collapses dead. And that's where we'll take our first break for today.
Oh! Well. Yeah.
thank you everyone for watching. Things are about to take a bit of a change. The pacing will quicken, but we'll get to that.
Just a bit.
We'll be back in about 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, Kel,
Yes.
where are you at the moment?
Well, me personally, I'm in my room, but whereas Tarala is at is across the table, covered in the blood of her sister. Or not her sister, her aunt. Her aunt. Sorry, it was Ren that just got poisoned. Wow, it's only been 10 minutes. I'm already forgetting. I'm a terrible person.
So Ren coughs and then vomits liters of blood across the table before collapsing, glassy-eyed and dead.
I mean, Tarala's gonna scream. I'm not gonna attempt it because there's no bugs nearby, so I can't hit that octave level.
This is not a laughing matter.
No. No, this is very serious. I'm just trying to alleviate the serious.
Your father looks directly at Jonas, eyes ablaze with fire. What have you done? As the doors to the room burst open, and dozens of guards file into the room. Weapons already drawn, some of the tabards already splattered with blood, screams ringing through the castle with the doors now open. And they're all wearing your uncle's crest. These are his men. And not just wearing his crest, you recognize them as his men. Jonas shoots them a withering stare as they proceed to lunge upon those at the table, swords flashing out. Your grandmother manages to stumble back away from one of the guards. Even though his sword clearly missed her, she clutches at her chest, coughs, and vomits up blood, collapsing dead. Now, this isn't just a fluff piece where we're recounting the tragedy of your character's backstory. Your actions right now matter. There are some people here who simply will not survive because that's what you've written into your backstory. But there are a lot of peripheral characters which we have mentioned who you have a chance to save if you act now.
Well, presumably as they are lunging, Tarala may not have a weapon with her, but she knows the forms, and she grabs one of the candle on the candelabra on the table and uses that to hook up and grab at one of the swords, slamming the thing down at one of the soldiers coming towards them, just basically trying to disarm and get a weapon so that she can protect others.
Okay. What I will do is I'll get you to roll in battle with one of these guards. How quickly you get through this encounter determines how many people there will be remaining to save.
Okay.
So roll to in battle, please.
Okie dokie. Just 1 second, we get to the dice rolling section. We have so many little chats. Alright, wits 4, awareness 3. Two successes.
That puts you on 5 and the guard on 4. It's your action.
All right, so this would be presumably a well, first it would be a wither, like slamming the candelabra on him would be basically be a withering attack. Improvised weapon, so subtracting an initiative, but it would be I'm assuming like a light weapon.
Yeah.
Should I use the stats from before I bought upgrades?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be 4 and 4 instead. And a stunt.
Yeah, 1 point.
Five successes.
Oh, whoops, that's the wrong window. Where did my book go? I've accidentally closed my book. I apologize. It'll be 1 moment.
Okay.
Oh, these stat blocks are hard to read sometimes. How many successes, sorry?
It was 5.
You have 1 threshold.
1 threshold, so strength 3. With this, you said this would be a. Oh, I didn't even factor in the accuracy of the weapon, which this was a light weapon, right?
Yeah, so that's 4.
Yeah, let me just roll that in real quick because that could change the number of successes.
Yep.
Yeah, that added 2 more, so
3 thresh.
So she would have total of 16 damage minus a soak.
The soak is 8, so you have 8 dice.
That does 5.
Putting you on 15. So crashing him. So yeah, she's grabbing the candle.
16. 1 per action landing the hit.
-1 for improvised weapon.
Oh, right, yes. Correct. My bad. Keep
Grabbing the
forgetting that.
candle, you sort of whip it out. The candles in the candelabra sort of scattering to the ground as you sort of clang upwards, sort of sending his sword sort of up into the air as you sort of bring it down hard against his shoulder, forcing him to stumble backwards, sort of leaping up out of your chair and sort of almost riding it back down as it sort of tips over, sort of landing on the ground as he stumbles back into one of the serving trays and you can see the plates and stuff sort of scatter to the ground around him. Trying to get back his composure, he flourishes the sword through the air and pushes himself off the cart, using it as leverage to sort of lunge forward and go in for a killing strike against you. That's just fluff. He's withering you.
Well, taking advantage of, again, that's one of those prong candelabras, she thrusts it up and uses the leverage from the corner to slam it down so it hits the table instead, scattering food, drink, and silverware everywhere as the blade impacts the table itself.
Cool. 1 point's done.
All right, so that sets her parry to, let's see, 4, 5. That would give her a parry of 5, and yeah.
So as he lunges forward, your sort of candelabra sort of catches the sword and plants it into the table. That's end of round, and it's your action.
All right. I am going to, or Tarala grasped at one of the knives that scattered, one that ran near her, one of the carving knives, and just brings it around, using the pinned sword as sort of a lever, and hooks it around, trying to get him right in the throat with a decisive attack.
Whew. Okay. I'll give you a 1 point stun.
All right, so that sets her to 10 dice. Three successes.
He's just taken his action, so he would have reset. Yeah. As the candelabra comes up towards his throat, he sort of falls.
Not the cannon, the knife.
The knife.
Knife comes up to his throat.
Oh, right, sorry. Yeah, bringing the knife up around sort of to slash against his throat. That would have been improvised weapon as well, so you'll take one initiative away from there. He slides back on one foot. Rather than sort of pulling the sword up, he sort of just slides it out, reversing his grip to bring it up in between the knife and him, sort of clashing the blade against you before reversing his grip back again and slashing down through you. Again, this is a withering attack, just for mechanics, but he's trying to kill you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Murder is in his eyes. Murder!
Murder is very much in his eyes. So again, sweeping her improvised, club and, I should say mini trident and knife, she uses them to batter the blades to the side, again hooking, this time trying to utilize it, hook toward his hand and pull him forward in order to basically keep the blade and get around him to his backside.
Cool, 1 point stun.
All right, so that sets it to 5. Oof.
He hits with no thresholds. What is your soak right now?
Well, since you wouldn't be wearing any armor, her soak would be 4.
So that's 8 dice of withering. Two.
Okay.
Bringing him up out of crash, but not very far.
No.
That's end of round, and it's your turn again. That's 2 rounds that have passed.
She actually takes advantage of the positioning and sort of using the positioning, like even though he grazed her, she still managed to get around, and she uses the candelabra to kind of push him away and attempts to disengage to get towards the others so that she might be able to run with them and pull them free to further into the castle, knowing where there would be free weapons she could get her hands on.
Okay.
So that's spending 2 initiative to do a disengage attempt.
1 point stun.
All right.
Dropping you to 10.
Dex is 4. Dodge is 3. So that's 9 dice. Four successes.
Successfully disengaged, moving away from him out to short range mechanically.
Yep.
So where exactly are you moving? The dinner table. Like everyone is beset by weapons.
Okay. She's grabbing, presumably nearby, Ayla. She is kind of here. The bodyguard.
Yes, he's been serving you food. He's currently locked blades with one of the other guards as well. Interestingly, Sagacious Hand is not getting attacked, but they are prioritizing you, your family, and your servants. So he sort of just backs away to one of the walls, and the attacking guards are mostly ignoring him.
at the moment would which of her family would be nearest to her, because she's going to try to grab them, because she knows, first off, her father is a dragon blood, so she knows he can fight very well. But is like Ayla nearby?
Yes. So Sagacious Hand and Ren were sitting directly across the table from you. Ayla was sitting towards the head of the table next to her father, directly next to Willem. They are both under attack. Your grandmother was sitting across from them. And your mother was sitting next to her directly at your father's left, which leaves you. So the closest person to you would actually probably be your mother, because your grandmother's just sort of collapsed to the ground dead.
Okay. So she grabs her mother and starts like holding the knife between the incoming guards, and tries to push her mother to go through the other doorway. And again, less people in here. She's just trying to be protective and get closer to Ayla and Willem. So just trying to, because presumably there's multiple ways into this room.
Yeah, there's multiple ways in and out of the room. Everyone's engaged in their own individual battles. I'm just going to very quickly... 4... 3... Oh, what do you know? Your mother's quick. You're able to sort of grab hold of your mother and pull her back out of the way as the two guards that were converging, one on you and one on your mother, sort of lunge forward. You're able to sort of push her back. Push her back down under the table as she scurries away towards one of the doors, not wanting to let go of your hand, but you pull yourself free and lunge across the table towards Ayla and Willem.
All right. All right. Is it a new round at this point?
Yes. They try to move towards you, but your disengaged moves you further away from them, so you have another round of moving, and you're out of their reach for the moment.
Okay. Since this is the dining hall and everything, one of the things she does, she's always been a bit spry, and this knife isn't going to do it, but at least having something with weight and balance would help. The dining hall would have a fireplace with a coat of arms up above it. She hops up and spends the turn to grab one of the ceremonial swords, because it, while being ceremonial and blunted, is still more balanced and steadier in her hand than a eating knife.
No sneeze.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I hate it when that happens. It's going to come back to haunt me later.
No, believe me, I told you I had that going on right before the break.
As you manage to sort of pull one of these things free, you notice that you find out that the coat of arms is sort of bound together. So not only do you have to wrench it from the wall, you have to wrench it from the binding, sort of strapping the whole thing together so that it all sits in formation. Once that movement is complete, the guards have moved in against you. You seem to be, other than your father, you seem to be posing the greatest threat here, so two of them converge against you. You've got the one guard from earlier who was on initiative 1, and you have a second guard coming up against you who is on initiative 4. It is your turn, right. Initiative 10. They're now in close range to you.
All right, this new guard, like she knows that the other guard is still a little bit off balance, but this new guard, she tries to get him off balance, swinging as she does the wrenching, basically using the whole thing to kind of create like almost a distraction, because who pulls a coat of arms? But using that to do that, and comes in with like 3 quick thrusts with the blade to strike him off balance, try to give a little breathing room.
Okay, I'll give you 1 point
Basically,
stun.
withering things. Okay, cool. And this would be a medium weapon now, so actually +2. And if it's straight blade, she gets her specialty in it.
Yeah. It'll only do bashing type damage, not lethal.
Which is fine. But that doesn't matter for withering.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 11. Let's see, 9 dice plus 2 more for the stunt, plus 2 more, so 13 dice for the attack roll. And that is 6 plus 3. That is 9 successes.
That is a whopping 5 thresholds.
All right. So that is, I believe, medium weapon, medium mundane is 9.
Yep.
Plus her strength of 3, plus the 5 threshold. That is 6. 16.
All right. His soak is 8, so you have 8 withering dice.
Okay. Uh, 2. So I go up by 3, so I'm now on initiative 13.
You missed a decisive attack. So you should be down 2 further. You're on 11.
No, the decisive attack was when I was at 15.
Yeah, so you lose 2, don't you?
I did lose 2 on that, but this one isn't that we factored that in, I thought.
I hadn't. No, you're on 11. Well, you're on 11.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's 2 off that guy, so he's on 2. Your several straight thrusts sort of force him to bring his blade up, sort of clapping them back aside. These two people you can see have drilled together as they start to combine their attacks, stepping forward. One of them stepping forward into you, sort of bringing their sword down, forcing you to bring up a block against that, while the next one brings his sword down under. Even as quick as you're able to sort of bring down and block, another blade is coming down against you at all times. They are pressuring hard against you. Is this essentially just a stunt? But they'll be getting, the second one will be on an onslaught penalty. So very quickly roll that up. Which is no.
Her parry with this one would be 6, then 5.
Or 5 isn't good enough. 5. The second one hits you with no thresholds.
Okay. And we can soak at 4.
Damage is 12. Your soak is 3 or 4, did you say? 4?
4.
Or 2.
Alright.
Dropping you to 9, pushing him up to 3. End of round, next action. You can hear more people starting to cough and splutter. Your mother, just getting out of the room, vomits up a few liters of blood and collapses to the ground dead. A guard passing in the hallway sort of just sees her collapse, and then just to make sure, rams his sword down through her back.
Obviously this is absolutely terrifying, but Ayla takes, Tarala Tarala takes advantage of the fact that she is much shorter than these guards, so they're probably used to fighting people of a much larger size. She ducks under, and she ducks under the. By the way, has the one guard recovered like out of crash the full 3 rounds? Okay.
Oh, he got out of crash from a withering attack earlier, so you're lucky.
Oh yes, I know, but you can't get a crash bonus again from somebody until a certain number of rounds have passed.
Yeah.
But ducking under the first one, though, this is what kind of hooks up to the second one, that second strike, which grazed her again. She goes for the guy who had overextended, and looping around, brings the sword back along broadside against his head to topple him, to sort of topple him away, so that sort of hooking him around so that he winds up on the other side of the guard, and the other guard, basically repositioning herself so that they're both still facing her, and she's between them and Ayla.
Okay, cool. I'll give you a 1 point stun.
All right, so that's 13 dice. Probably not a hit. 3 successes.
Again, as I mentioned, the two of them now together have drilled well with each other. You do manage to sort of smack down and reposition yourself, but as soon as you sort of right your body and sort of bring yourself up, they're immediately on you, both of their blades coming in at you at once.
She again takes total advantage of the fact that she has a much smaller frame, utilizing the fact that the sword does cover her full, almost her full wingspan, as it were to, as they're bringing it down, up, just trying to again keep it so that they're having to come down, where in order to get leverage, she has more space to defend.
Cool. 1 point stun.
All right, so that sets it to 7, and then the second one will be against 6.
Whew. They're getting close.
Yep. Well, that's what happens with mortals.
Yeah.
Mortal fighting is very different than Exalt fighting.
They have, however, managed to lock you down, and this is the end of another round. The guard that had sort of just run its sword through your mother's back sort of pulls it free and starts to advance on the other side of Ayla. Ayla, who sort of tries to pick up something from the table to use as the weapon, as Willem tries to stand up, throwing himself in the way, picking up a chair and breaking it over the guy's side. The guard seems to sort of just like the chair breaks apart against his body as he sort of swings a gauntleted hand against it, sort of knocking it apart, thrusting his sword through and taking Willem in the gut, twisting the blade, and then pulling it free as the young man sort of just looks down to see blood burst out from the wound as he collapses to his knees and slumps off to the ground, Ayla screaming.
Tarala, only with not able to turn her face over to the, again, takes advantage of the fact that her sister was just screaming and loops around again, trying to position herself again so that if they want to keep it in close range, but kind of juking around so that even though one can reach her, would have to reach around his friend to get her, as she brings her blade up against him, like trying to clock him in the jaw to knock him off balance, possibly into his friend. But
1 point stun.
it's just a withering attack. Okay.
I think this combat music has quite the right gravity.
Oh god, I'm not doing well on combat right now. 2 successes.
As you sort of bring your weapon up, one of them sort of parries it down and clashes against it, while the other one scoops his blade in under yours and they both sort of lift at the same time, lifting your blade up and aside, leaving you open as they both sort of twirl and bring their blades down against you.
She attempts to wrench her hand around to bring it around and, force back down to keep it from getting to her. Utilize the fact that one. Yeah. Okay, again, 7, 6.
Ooh, that's a
Ooh,
botch.
he botched.
It is butch. And that is a success.
But, yeah.
So the first one who sort of brought his blade down against yours, as the other one sort of scoops his up, your blade comes up, and as you sort of bring it back around to bring it back down to sort of stop them from bringing their swords down, his hand has gone a bit too high up, and he loses grip on his blade as it soars up and thuds its way into the ceiling. He is now disarmed, and his blade is hanging in the ceiling. It's not solidly in, so it looks like it's going to drop in a matter of moments. However, watching this blade soar up into the ceiling does sort of take your eyes up as you see it fly up, forgetting for a moment that essential lesson that Kenneth taught you: never take your eyes off your enemy. As a blade comes down, catches you on the shoulder, and drags down through the front of your dress. That's 5, 6, that's 1 threshold, which means he has 9 dice of withering damage. Yep. 3.
3. Okay. All right. So just
end of the round. That's the end of that round.
Yes.
New round. The guard who's just run Willem through and advances on Ayla, who plucks up something. So as I said, she'd already sort of grabbed something from the table to try and use, and flings herself against this man, sort of just no longer sort of screaming in fear, but screaming in anger and fury as she sort of slams her weapon against his several times over, sparks starting to fly. You can feel a heat coming from her as she rails against him again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Your action.
All right. Tarala takes despite the grazing strike, she moves in such a way to push the guard that had just lost his weapon sort of away, ever so slightly out of reach, as she brings her blade up, almost hooking it in order to bring it down to her foot where she can hold it, and slams her own blade down on him to as a withering strike, basically bringing that one so that it hooks it down, it's on the ground, her foot stamps on it, and brings her blade down in a withering strike so that it's ready to come back up to parry the next onslaught from the other guard.
Okay.
Was that 1 point?
Hey, I'm thinking, yes, a 1 point stunt.
All right, perfect.
As you...
Dang it, what is going on with these dice?
They know the tragedy of the moment. As your blade hooks down around and sort of tries to bring up to catch the man, his friend sort of just grabs him by the shoulder and pulls him back. As your weapon flies through the air, he's coming down just as quick, bringing it down against your arm. He's going to do a decisive strike against you.
Okay. In that case, Tarala basically completely follows through with her movement, arcing under to bring the blade back up, pushing it away in the same sort of herself and it away, like two forces going away. It's in opposite directions.
1 point.
Okay, so parry of 7. Great.
As his blade comes down against your arm, your blade sort of you snap into form just that little bit faster than even you expected to, like your instincts taking over, sort of bringing the blade in between you and sort of cracking it up against his blade. That loses him an initiative point. Oopsies.
I think it's 2 initiative points.
No, he's under 10, so it's just 1.
Under 10, it's 2. Over 11, it's 3.
Oh. Oops. I'm the GM, I should read the rules more often. As his blade sort of flies up out of the air, flies up away from you, his hand still on his friend's shoulder, yanks him back forward almost to throw his friend into you, who sort of dives in to tackle at you, thrusting his fists forward. This is a withering attack.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. This is a grapple gambit.
A grapple gambit. She again using that. Since she's brought the one blade down, even if he doesn't, she instead tries to, as he does around, use her blade to basically scoop him around so that he goes past her, and possibly stumbling forward if he fails this gambit.
I'll give you a 1.
All right, so that would send it to 6.
Kablam!
Oh, dang.
And he succeeded, leaving him on 1 initiative. Now I need you to roll your strength or dexterity plus brawl.
Okay, so that's 5 dice. She is going to attempt to take the momentum to kind of wrench him around to make sure that he doesn't get the leverage he hopes to get. Like basically following through, since he grabbed through, like she's basically following her motion through. Again, now his back would be to his friend. She would be on the other side again.
Okay, I'll give you 1 point.
All right, so that's 7.
So he has exactly 1 round of control, and that's this round.
Yep.
As you sort of try and scoop him around, his hands are just barely managing to keep hold of you. Manages to sort of twist them, almost sort of jarring your shoulder sockets slightly out of place, as he sort of just picks you up and throws you as hard as he can into the ground in front of him. This will be a withering savage throw, essentially.
Okay.
So he needs to roll to hit. Getting 4 thresholds onto his strength 3.
So
7.
That,
and your Soki is 4?
4. So yep.
3 dice.
Dang.
4. throwing him up to 5. And as you can feel your back hit the ground hard, as the wind gets sort of knocked out of you. Your sword not leaving your hand, but clattering against the ground next to you as his sword sort of dislodges itself from the ceiling and begins to fall towards the group. That's end of round.
Okay. So, what's the turn order now? Because that was
It's the guards first.
shift in initiative.
Yeah.
Okay.
As the blade comes down, the guy sort of... he's going to be ending up doing a flurry, so he'll lose some dice for this, but he sort of he catches it out of the air, and they both, again, sort of, one of them are lunging forward to drive their blade into it, while the other one sort of rolls over his back to sort of scrape his blade up against the ground. Remember, at the moment, you are prone.
Yeah.
And suffering
I don't think I'm getting out of this too well.
Or also suffering 2 onslaught.
Yeah. So,
What does prone do? You remember?
I suffer -2 parry, -3 evasion, or -2 evasion, -1 parry.
Do we need to look it up? Okay, cool.
-1 to parry, -2 to evasion, -3 to attacks, and cannot take any movement actions other than to rise from prone. Also automatically fails attempt to resist, rush, and disengage actions. So, she is going to attempt to bring the sword up, basically just trying to protect herself, also using her legs to basically kick at him to sort of stumble him over, really kind of hoping that at this point she's terrified because, one, now she's probably like, she's seeing death coming towards her. She is like, no, this can't be how it ends. And she's also going to spend a willpower on her defense on this one, in any desperate attempt to keep from anything happening. But yeah, she's just doing that, trying to keep them both off kilter by bringing the blade up and kicking at legs to try and keep them from getting a solid bearing over her.
1 point.
So what am I at now as far as that? So I've taken 2 onslaught and -1, so that's 3. So I am at parry of 5, then 4.
5, then 4?
Yep.
Oh my god.
So, in that moment, she is going to attempt to basically utilize the fact that she is near the table, to, as they miss, hook her sword up to act as kind of a lever to yank herself up, as her move action, rise from prone. And as they roll past her, she brings the sword up, back off the table, splintering oak and lacquer everywhere as she slams it down onto their passing back.
Can you flurry rise from prone with an attack?
It's a move. It is your move. I believe you can. It's a move action.
Just double checking. Yes. Oh no, it's a combat action, not a move.
Oh, it is. Never mind then. But yeah, she's still rising from prone.
I like the stunt, so I'll give you 2 points for the stunt. You'll need to roll Dex plus Dodge. You've already got 1 success.
Okay. Okay, so that's 4 Dex, 3 Dodge, 2 stunt. So that's 9 dice. And there we go. God, that would have been bad if none of those were successes.
Bringing your sword up around, sort of levering up off the table, you sort of, as you say, bring your blade back down against their backs as their forces pivot to meet you. Ayla, still wailing on this guy with her little, steak knife. Forcing him back, the sparks flying. You can almost see flames start to erupt from around her as she gives a final scream, her steak knife slamming down against his blade and driving it into his chest, as in his own blade back down into his chest, as she explodes in fire, engulfing that part of the room. And flames, sort of hot and vicious, instantly begin to spread. Sorry. As Jonas throws himself into the way, grabbing onto her to try and stop the fire from spreading too far.
Okay. What is Reese doing?
Reese has finished combat with the several guards that had taken against him. He's currently sort of jumped up onto the table and running down across it, sort of just kicking plates and stuff left, right, and center, running straight for his eldest daughter, currently in the arms of who he believes is his greatest enemy at this moment. He is lit afire, but not as uncontrolled as his daughter. His blade sort of just dragging along the table, setting it ablaze as he flashes forward to clash with Jonas, who's forced to let Ayla go and push her to the side to defend himself, bringing his hands up to sort of just grab onto the blade and drive him back into the wall. You feel movement.
Tarala.
You feel movement beside. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, in this moment, Tarala just shouts to Ayla to run.
You feel movement beside you as the firm hand of Sagacious hand sort of just claps down onto your shoulder as he effortlessly moves past you and in a single motion reaches out his other hand to tap one of the guards on the shoulder, using his leverage to just roll up over the guard, his cloak flying as the guard is lunging forward to strike you with a sword that's no longer in his hand. As you see Sagacious hand standing behind him, sort of just tuck it in under his cloak, and then sort of just ta-da! It's vanished. Your action.
So, okay, my action. As that guard comes in with the sword and no means of basically overextending himself without the means of his defense, Tarala hooks her blade up and just what she's trying to do is simply slam him with the butt of it, just basically, I'm done with you, bam, trying to stagger him to the side with a well-placed blow to the temple to knock him off it, like throw him completely off balance.
Cool. 1 point done.
All right. And I'm gonna burn a willpower since I got that 2 points on to give me a willpower back. So that's 1 automatic success. And this says 5 successes. So, wow, I actually hit this time. Finally, after a series of whiffs.
6, that is 2 thresholds.
Yay! So 2 thresholds.
Oh wait, no,
plus 9
sorry,
damage.
that's 3 thresholds because he's just suffered an attack from sand.
Oh. Also, he doesn't have a weapon with him, because the weapon would have been a medium,
yes,
so that would have actually
that's
been
right. 2.
4 threshold. So yeah, so that's 4 plus her strength of 3 plus the weapon, which is 9, so that's 16. So versus a soak of 8, so that's 8. Okay, Withering Dice, don't fail me this time. Okay, I'll take 3.
Yeah, you will. That has crashed him, catapulting you up to 10 initiative.
Oh, yay!
As the blade sort of just cracks him against the skull, he sort of stumbles forward and crashes into one of the chairs. The second guard sort of turns against Sand, sort of surprised that he's suddenly interfering as the round ends, and you see Sand sort of reach forward towards the man as the cards seem to just fly from his jacket sleeve, sort of distracting him for a moment as he again grabs onto the man's hand and rolls around over the top of him, driving his blade down under his coat and sort of flipping away the man, now also disarmed.
Oh, yay! Sorry, I was just noticing our buddy Avis was in the chat, and I just had to let him know the dice gods have been treating me very rudely today.
Despite your best efforts and intentions to scream for Ayla to run, you can see the heat of hatred burning hot and terrible in her eyes as she flashes across the short space between you and the 2 guards that have just been disarmed, grabbing onto one of them and just strangling him on the neck, forcing him to the ground as he screams in pain as the fire engulfing her body takes him. At the end of this round, you'll take flux damage.
I'm going to move away since so the one guard is prone, right?
Well, he's not prone. He sort of just fell against the table, but yeah.
Okay, but I'm just curious because if I were to move away from him, if he was prone, I wouldn't have to roll a disengage.
But in this case, you will.
Okay. So I am going to attempt to do that to maneuver around to the other guard. Like I'm not disengaged. So there's basically guards on 2 sides of me, correct?
Kind of, yeah. You're all technically within close range of each other right now.
Yeah, but I'm technically trying to only disengage from the one.
Right, okay.
Just to get around the other. So, but spend 2 initiative and rolling Dex plus Dodge as I take advantage of the fact that both guards are now distracted. One very much being set on fire, and the other having a bunch of cards shot into his face. Just and I take advantage to basically just roll around and almost kind of like push him, shove him so that he's face hits the table. You know, a glass of wine gets smashed, and in a way of just rolling around him. In a way, I guess that's to be flurrying a disengage and a attack if you can. I don't think you can.
Disengage is movement, so technically you can.
It would be -3 to both, which is fine. It's a cool thing. So yeah, basically moving around, she slams the butt end of it to basically smash him into the table in a way of keeping him from getting advantage point on her while getting away from the intense flames.
Okay, I'll give you a 1-point stun.
All right.
And your difficulty is
so that's 1 point. So that's against that's a 1-point stun for both the attack and the disengage, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So my Dex plus Dodge is 7 -3. I'm sorry, my Google Home just said something.
Has it invented a new language?
No, I think it thought I was talking to it. Sorry. AI being, it's okay, ladies and gentlemen. The uprising is upon us, but we're just going to continue.
We don't stop roleplay for nothing.
No. So I'm sorry. Dex plus dodge is 7 minus, effectively -1, so that's 6. Okay, that's that's enough successes.
Yep.
And now for the attack, which we're just gonna get rid of since normally she'd be rolling 13. We're just gonna make that down a nice even, well, yeah, it's 10 plus 2, so that's actually 12.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It might be. Oh, the sun's coming in hot now.
Oh wow, 9 successes.
Jeepers creepers!
Finally! All it took was somebody else exalting. All right, so that's
2. That's 7 thresholds.
Thresholds plus her normal damage of 9, so that's versus 8. So wait, 9, 13, 12, 19 minus 8, so 11. Uh, 4 successes.
4 successes.
Yep.
Sorry, can you give me that one again? The number?
What?
Can you give me that number again? Sorry.
Oh, 4 successes. So that's 5 initiative that I gain.
No, you gained 10 because you just crashed him. You're on a whopping 20 initiative.
Oh dang! Whoever gets hit by me is gonna be really hurt.
So you've clocked him on the temple as well.
Wait! I also subtract 2 from the disengage.
Oh right, yes. Sorry,
So
thank
I'm
you for
at
reminding me.
You're welcome.
You crack him on the side of the skull, sort of rolling away from him. You can see Sagacious Hand sort of look down in your sister in what seems to be a little bit of horror, as he sort of furls his cape around and sort of just slaps it over the top of her, pushing his arms around her and pulling him off the poor man she's just strangling. He's still just barely alive, but he has severe burns all over his body as he just sort of starts coughing and spluttering from both the strength of her hands strangling his throat and the sort of, when he finally does get an inhalation of breath, it's acrid smoke. Oh, sorry, excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
Sorry.
It's quite all right.
So Sagacious Hands pulled her off, pulled her off and away, sort of furling his cape back around and onto his shoulders. As she looks at him with sort of hateful eyes, how could you? And she lunges at him. He tries to bring his cape up between her and him when the flames around her suddenly go out, and she gags, vomiting blood all over him, and sort of just slumping against him, her head sort of just cracking to the side as the poison finally takes hold, and she just drops dead.
Oh dear. Well, there's not much family left.
Your father and uncle are still in a heated battle at the rear of the room, sort of bright burning flames, almost sort of scorching, bright, blinding blue and white surrounding your father as he pushes down against Jonas. Jonas himself glowing glowing a brilliant white as he pushes back against your father. It's almost as if the two forces are not quite equal. Your Jonas is able to keep your father back, and sort of the force of his aura able to sort of push back a little bit, whipping the flames back around him, threatening to set the whole room on fire. That's when Kenna finally deals with the last of the guards attacking him, leans down to grab you by the shoulder, and urges you to run away with him. And
she takes one last look, and she sees she's almost reaching out to her dad. Again, she's seen this attack. She's reaching out, like the sword is almost the sword hand is the one that was probably the one that Kenna grabbed. But she reaches out, like almost trying to reach, but is pulled away by I would say stronger guardsman that has basically taught her everything.
Clasping his hand against yours and yanking you from the room, the sagacious hand backs away, mortified with the sort of blood that's been vomited over him, as he sort of swivels and ducks away from the encroaching heat that is starting to consume this room. Dashing out into the hall, you can hear the serving staff screaming as more soldiers sort of tromp through the hallways, sort of just taking blade to anyone they come across. As you've exited out into the room and Kenna is trying to pull you away to safety, you can see Leah cowering behind a pot plant as a guard approaches her with his blade drawn.
At this point, she doesn't want to see anybody else hurt or injured. She just wrenches free, rushes forward, and just takes that blade and just the full sword and just leaps up, bringing the blade down onto this new threat, like trying to stop it right in its tracks.
Okay, just give me a Dex plus melee roll, please.
Okie dokie. Any stunt?
Nope.
3 successes.
How angry is Tarala about what's happened?
Oh, she is absolutely furious. Like, this is her family, everything. Like, she's just witnessed, she witnessed her mother, or her aunt, her grandmother, her mother, and her sister all die, one after just exalting, and now her being pulled away from her father, who is fighting with her uncle, and just seeing one more. She can't take any more of those she cares about dying today.
Okay, so this broadsword that you have plucked from the wall and wrenched from the coat of arms is a blunt object. And yet, in your fury and strength, you're able to leap upon this man's back, press the point of it against the joint between his back rib and scapula, and just drive it right down through his body in one heaving stroke. This blunt blade driven right through him as it punctures out underneath his lung, pushing out through his torso and driving it down into the dirt of the potted plant. He splutters and gurgles, spitting up blood. It's messy, goes everywhere, splatting against Leo, who sort of screams and crawls away in fear as he drops the sword that he's holding, dying in the plant. Kenna comes back to try and grab you. Tarala, we must leave.
Tarala is reaching for Leah and trying to coax her. Come on, we'll get you out of here.
You can see the horror in her eyes as she stares down at this man, sort of still barely alive, gurgling blood as it drips down to his front tabard. And her eyes just, they're not glazed over, but she's horrified, scarred, and terrified by what has been happening. She shakily holds out her hand as you grab her. Are you going to leave with a weapon or not?
I pick up the guard's sword instead of trying to wrench the one out of him.
Okay, great.
And follow Kenneth.
Kenneth drags you out through the madness. You can hear sort of the rumbling of rocks and sort of flashings of fire as more guards start to sort of trot up the pathway up towards you. These men you don't recognize, although they are still wearing the sort of colors and emblems of your uncle Jonas. They see you. There's about a dozen of them, and they start to advance upon you. Kenna, not sure what to do, sort of glances at them, to you, and then to the stables around the side. He pushes you away. And he says, "Run, I'll hold them here."
Tarala, obviously she doesn't want to, but she just says, "Thank you for everything," and takes Leah and takes her to rushes her to the stables, whistling for her horse.
Like to give me a stamina plus athletics roll, please.
Stamina plus athletic. All right. That is 7 dice. Five successes.
Clutching Leah by the hand, your hands sort of slick with blood from killing that man instantly. It threatens to lose your grip, but you're able to sort of just tighten and even almost crushing her hand in sort of in the anger and fear and anguish that you're feeling. She managed to drag her towards the stable. As you let out the loud whistle, you can see. Sorry. Name of your horse again? Care something?
What?
Your horse. The horse's name?
Oh, Caranthar.
A Caranthar. As a Caranthar sort of bursts out through the stable doors, you can see some of the guards trying to attack it, as it sort of snorts at them derisively before exploding into flames. Every strand of hair of its mane and its tail sort of engulfing in flame, becoming sort of living, moving fire, as it sort of snorts and just bellows flame back into the stables, instantly taking the men, and you can hear the other horses inside screaming and whinnying and dying.
Tarala is taken a little bit back because she's never seen this before. Like, she knows her horse is an amazing horse, but not this. So she's trying to as well, like, keep herself composed, and at the same time, Leah from freaking out even further than she already is.
After dealing with that was threatening it, Caranthar turns its head, locking its deep dark eyes upon you, as it sort of races across the ground, almost leaving trails of flame behind it. It skids to a halt and sort of dips its body, It's not saddled, but it seems to be ready and willing to let you board it as soon as possible.
She reaches her hand out for it. Is it hot or?
It's hot.
It's hot, but does it burn?
If you touch its mane, you will burn.
Okay. She so she looks to it and like, I can't ride you like this. I can't. She quickly looks for something, something just to almost like to put out the fire, as it were, like not even thinking that this is just something that's generating.
It snorts again, neighing, sort of clasping its teeth upon the sort of the cloth of your dress, now sort of ripped it in tatters from all of the fighting, sort of scorch marks from the burns and fire, sort of pulling you off to the side and pushing Leah along with you, before it sort of kicks at some sort of stored crates of sort of hay and other equipment for the stable as they collapse around you, and it takes off into the forest as fast as it can. You hear the tromp of feet as those soldiers that were taking on, that Kenna was taking on, sort of march around the corner. Are you wanting to take them on, or are you going to hide?
Where is Leah at this point?
She's with you.
With me? All right.
If you reveal yourself, she will be revealed as well.
All right, so here's what we do. We, since it looks like something happened in there, and obviously the horse has gone off with fire and everything, she and Leah dive into she pulls Leah into the hay and clasps a hand over, her mouth, and try to keep quiet as these guards hopefully are going after the side of the flame.
Give me a Dex plus Stealth, please.
Okay. Any stunt?
I'll give you 2 points stun.
All right, so that's 8 dice then. Six successes plus the 1 automatic. And I'm back up to full willpower now. Yay.
They trot past, looking around. They seem to sort of inspect the in and around the crates, although they don't manage to see you, before moving on down towards the stable. You can hear the men starting to shout to put the blaze out as they start grabbing sort of just bags of dirt and sort of hurling them into the center of the flame, trying to put it down. There's a great sort of crack and a thunderous boom as the wall a few feet away from you explodes outwards. Your father falling back, splayed on the ground, the flames around him still sort of licking the area around him, as Jonas just carefully steps out of the crevice in the castle he's just made, and see his hand sort of scooping up against the wreckage. It's starting to form an enormous stone fist, hovering about 3-4 inches from his arm, as he slowly marches towards your father.
Tarala, his anima is blazing as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. She's been around Dragonblood enough to know when to stay away from animas. She takes advantage of the fact that the guards are over there, Jonas is over there, and she grabs Leah and just starts running like from the running, changing off after where Karanthar went.
As you break free of your hiding place, holding Leah firmly around the wrist, running as fast as you can, dragging her with you, you feel a pulse in the ground as you sort of As your foot hits the earth, you can almost feel the pulse sort of echo out from your foot towards Jonas, who immediately snaps his head towards where you're running from. He screams to his men, gesturing at you. There she is. Get her now! As they abandon the flaming stable and start running off into the woods after you. As he screams this, your father picks himself off the ground and throws himself at Jonas again, who just smacks him aside with the giant stone fist he's generated. As your vision of your father and Jonas disappears through the tree line.
Okay. She just doesn't look back. She keeps running. Like,
Leah is not as athletic as you. It's hard for her to keep up. As you drag her onwards and onwards, there comes a time where she almost screams of exhaustion, except that she has no energy left, and you can feel her legs start to slacken. You're almost dragging her along the ground. She can't keep running anymore. She just sort of collapses to the ground, saying, "My lady, please, go on without me. I'll just slow you down."
Tarala, she's using that adrenaline that always comes when in a tense situation. She doesn't even think twice. She just hooks her up and just starts to almost fireman carry her. Like, just keep running, keep running.
What's your strength?
Strength 3, athletics is also 3.
Okay. I get you to roll both of those for me, please.
Sure thing. I will burn a willpower. So that's 2 successes.
You're able to just sort of scoop her up and start running through the forest. And the further you run, the hotter it gets. As you burst out into a clearing and see one of your favorite glades burning, the trees surrounding it forming a wall of fire. In the distance somewhere, you can hear the call of Karenthar. Its loud, mournful neigh, almost forming the syllables of your name.
She lets out a whistle towards it to almost to like trying to call him back, but not sure if he's going to be able to reach there. And I'm assuming she hears the guards giving chase as well, right?
Yeah. You hear the snap of twigs behind you.
At this point, she's tired. She's exhausted. She decides at this point, stop. She positions herself between. Well, even though she called for Karenthar, they need time to get for him to get back. So she decides at this point. She positions herself between her and between the incoming guards and Leah, holding the sword ready at a defensive posture to for when they come.
As they begin to burst through the tree line, just under a dozen men, you can see that Kenna has lessened their numbers somewhat. But it's still an overwhelming force. You couldn't hope to take on all these people and have a dream of surviving.
You said under a you said just under a dozen in number.
Just under a dozen. So
She
10.
Okay. She takes a deep breath and exhales, but she looks Leah. and says, "Go, run. This does not concern you. It's me thereafter."
She slowly backs away from you, glances to the burning wall of flame that's sort of slowly beginning to encircle this clearing, and shakes her head. There's nowhere for her to go. The men stalk into the clearing. You can hear them laughing between each other. One of them puts his sword away and reaches out a hand, saying, calling out to you. Come on, princess. There's been enough death and battle tonight. Come with us quietly. Your uncle would like to talk to you.
She widens her stance and again she shakes her head. No. You'll have to take him back to me dead. Take me back to him dead.
They approach you. He still has his weapon away, still has his hand outstretched. Don't be a fool, princess. You couldn't hope to fight away all of us.
And maybe I don't want to, but I'm going to try anyway. And with that, she rushes forward at him.
As you race forward towards these men, wielding your blade up, you can see the look of shock and surprise on their faces. They were not expecting you to fight. And as much horror and terror as you've been through this night, you've not kept track of time, and the sun begins to rise in the east. And as its first dawning rays touch against your back, you can feel it warm, enveloping, friendly, almost like a hand pushing you on forwards to greatness. As you burst into flame and rise like a phoenix.
Ooh.
I'm not interested in rolling this battle out. I want you to tell me. Are you brutal? Are you measured? What happens here?
Tarala is actually very measured in her fighting. She does not she's not going to let anger overtake her. Anger leads to foolishness. It was one of the things kind of taught her. So she is precise. She is measured. Every time they think they get a moment of advantage upon her, but they realize they've just struck through smoke, and what comes back is the sparks and the flame from the swords clashing, and each time one falls, it is simply to one clean stroke right through them, not multiple, not not the signs of somebody who's inferior. It is a precise calculated strike.
At the end of it all, you stand there, heaving with the exertion, flames bursting around you. The phoenix of your soul sort of settling down around you, wrapping its tail around you, enfolding you in its wings. As the flames begin to continue to burn, that sweet smell of cooked flesh permeating the area. Your blade, white hot from the power surging through it from you, has cut clean through each of your enemies and felled them to a man.
She looks to see if Leah is all right still.
Leah is still in the center of the clearing, clear from harm. The flames now set by Karanthar engulfed the entire area as it has sort of serenely trotted out of the flames into the open, bowing its head majestically towards you, almost as if it was bowing to a princess or a prince of the earth. Leah weeps, terrified, afraid, hopeful, happy, 100 different emotions, and none of them properly reconciled. And you look down at the blade in your hand, the blade that you took from those men who stormed the castle, who killed your family, who swore allegiance to your uncle. And as the heat dies down and the blade cools, you can easily make out its maker's mark, expanded now from the heat that you've suffused through it. A small hammer, breaking glass. And that's when you wake. End session.
Dang! Ooh. Well, huh. I gotta say, Mortal Kombat is dicey, but in more ways than one. But this is one of the reasons why I do love this system, because you saw how it went so back and forth. She had the upper hand, and then all of a sudden everything toppled over. It's absolutely amazing with that. Very cinematic, very fun. Yeah, wow. But yeah, oh, there's gonna be probably some words and possibly concussed stumbling but yeah, that's what's going to probably happen next actual session.
All right, so the session for today is over. Thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in to give us a look. I know that the majority of you are actually from the group, so thank you very much for the views. Tarala, what have we learned today?
Well, what she has learned is that there might have been a little more than just Jonas being the cause of all of this. After all, with seeing that symbol, someone's going to have to do a little bit of talking, especially given the fact that during the fight, somebody didn't make many moves until very specific instances. So she's no longer sure who she can trust.
Well, thank you very much. We've spoken a little bit in the language of dreams. We've spoken a little bit through the language of narrative. Thank you very much for playing. Thank you everyone for watching. And we'll see you next time on Invictwitch.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody. You have a good night. Or morning, whatever.